Today we have Mr. Rajiv Nath ji from IMED. He's a forum coordinator. Let's discuss with him. Welcome. Rajiv ji, as you know, the Indian healthcare sector is really huge, and currently due to the new policies which are being implied from the government end, is creating a lot of turmoil. Okay, it's creating a lot of turmoil and also a lot of chaos in the healthcare sector. So, what is the best way to tackle this?
Which policies are you talking about?
The current new policies where there is, the control of the prices of the drugs, and apart from that, if we talk about the devices being used, the medical devices, the costs are being controlled at this moment.
Well, actually, I think if the industry is not going to self-regulate itself in an ethical manner, whether it's the healthcare providers, the medical device manufacturers, the importers, and the patients are going to feel that we've been taken for a ride.
Yeah. Friends, today we have Mr. Rajiv Nath from IMED. He's a forum coordinator. Let's discuss with him. Rajiv ji, welcome first of all.
Thank you.
Rajiv ji, as we are seeing that there is a lot of turmoil in the healthcare sector as of now, and it is due to the current policies of price control which is created by the government. I think it was a necessary part also, but the current devices, which are medical devices like stents, and if you talk about the implants, the price are being controlled, and there is a lot of havoc about it in the industry.
Well, actually, it's a question of perception. If the manufacturers and the importers would be having an ethically reasonable price put on their product, there will not be an issue with the patients. And if the hospitals are going to buy the product based on their costs and on quality, and not on the basis of the devices which are giving them more profit and a higher MRP, so that they have no need to push these expensive products at their patients, then there would also not be an issue. But the reality is that patients have been taken for a ride. They know it. They are angry about it. Consumer groups and NGOs have been shouting about it. And ethical manufacturers and ethical healthcare providers do need to listen to these patients' concerns and address it. So, if ethics could not, or self-regulation could not address this issue, then it's understandable for the government to step in on behalf of the patients and to regulate the healthcare market. With the stents part, it was a first start. Some may criticize the government for maybe a little bit overdoing it, but in the case of orthopedic implants, there has been less reaction, I would say. And in the case of syringes, there has been a lot of stories recently about the high pricing in Fortis and Max Hospital examples, unethical practices. I'm also the president of ISINMA, the Syringes and Needle Manufacturers Association. And just yesterday we took a call on this, and we did realize that this issue needs to be addressed. So from our part, we have voluntarily decided to self-regulate ourselves. We have advised all the membership that the maximum retail price of the syringes and needles need to have a maximum trade margin of 75% built into it. So with that, the prices of syringes and needles are expected to come down to half or one-third of what it is in January.
Great. So that is the first step towards the positive approach towards this whole policy thing.
Yes. Doctors, medical device companies, pharmaceutical companies, we keep on claiming we are patient-centric, we are consumer-centric. Well, if we are, then we must walk the talk.
The main thing is that we need to find out a common ground with these government policies and the healthcare sector also, that they don't feel, completely out of the range at this moment, because the doctors are unhappy, the pharmaceutical industry leaders are unhappy about the whole situation.
Well, the doctors are unhappy a little bit because they feel that these prices were justified. And they have been using these prices to cross-subsidize their procedure costs. We from the manufacturing industry feel that this is giving us manufacturers a bad name. Every professional has got a right to demand compensation in a fair manner for the services provided. Lawyer does it, a doctor does it, it's completely fair. But cross subsidies must stop. Whatever is reasonable procedure costs, I'm sure any patient will be happy to give. as long as these costs are known to him in advance and they are transparent. When you go to a hotel, you know in advance when you pick up the menu card what you have to pay. If you cannot afford a 5-star restaurant, you will move to a 4-star. If you can't afford a 4-star, you'll go to a fast food or a roadside dhaba. But in a 5-star hotel, or a hospital, if you are getting admitted, and you may feel that I have a budget and my insurance will take care of it, halfway through the treatment, you find that the insurance policy will not be covering the costs.
Correct. The transparency is
Yes.
the key.
And then you start getting a feeling that maybe you're being taken for a ride. And you don't know where that ride is going to end. That lack of transparency, I think, is where the anger is getting inbuilt in, and there's being a lack of trust. If hospitals and doctors need to rebuild their trust, they need to be open and transparent about it. That's my request to them.
The main thing is that, as we were discussing before this particular talk, that the medical device industry is more than 10 billion US dollars right now in India.
Yes.
So, and it will be keep on growing as per the demand and everything. Apart from that, we are seeing that the people in India are not receiving any legit kind of a healthcare system, most of them. So, what kind of reforms need to be taken care by the government in this regard? That everybody should get the proper legit healthcare devices or treatments.
In terms of access to quality of safe medical devices, we need to have a separate medical device law. From 1st January, we'll be having the new medical device rules coming in. That's a very welcome start, but it's only going to be covering and being applicable to those devices that were already notified as drugs.
Okay.
Now, there are thousands of devices available in the market which will not be regulated by these rules. It's important that the law needs to come out to regulate all the devices at one go with a defined transition period, so that the regulatory system is built up accordingly, and also the device manufacturers can adhere to these requirements in due course of time, and they build capacity for that. That's one part of it. The second part of it is in terms of public healthcare expenditure. In India, we are spending too less. The private healthcare can only take so much part of it. The government should take its own responsibility and make sure that public healthcare expenditure must increase. Unfortunately, public healthcare is being treated as a state subject, and the central government will ask the state governments to take care of it at their own expenditures and their own budgets. The political system in India currently is not so much focused on healthcare and education the way it should be.
Correct.
It's for the public itself who have to demand from their leaders to focus upon these two areas of concern, both healthcare and education.
Do you think that the public sector for healthcare industry and private sector should come together to create a platform where there can be a win-win situation for the industry as well as the end users, those are the patients?
I think they're already reaching out to each other. You have many forums where, like the Public Healthcare Foundation of India and other organizations do provide a platform and a communication between the private sector and the public sector to talk to each other and be complementary to each other. The health policy of India also has come forward with the formula where the government has defined that it needs to depend on the private healthcare because it cannot do everything by itself in public healthcare. But it should not deny its own responsibility. It should not also have over expectations from the private healthcare. And the private healthcare also has to realize that they need to provide an affordable healthcare system to the public of the country. It should be open and transparent, like I mentioned earlier, so that there is trust built into the system. A hapless patient should not feel that he's caught between a defunct public healthcare system and an unaffordable private healthcare sector.
Apart from this, there is one more thing which is being really concerning most of the people, that in case of the medical devices, the US FDA plays a very, very important role in India. So I would like you to actually address about that also.
Well, the US FDA is the regulator for America to take care of safety of American patients.
Correct.
But most countries which have got low tariff barriers of products coming into their country tend to use regulations as a non-tariff barrier. Since the pharma industry in USA is